I love Satisfactory. It's one of the first games I've ever played that I found myself on Steam without any help from YouTube or any help from other Let's Players. But with how great this game is, I'm missing a bit of stuff from it. I want to play this game again, but without repeating through the same thing. And what better way to do it than to play a randomizer? So a few months ago, me and these two lovely people decided we were gonna play a multi-world randomizer. A multi-world randomizer does literally what a randomizer does, which is basically randomize all the items within a game, but instead of just randomizing your items, it would randomize everybody's items. So for example, if you and another person will play two different games, the items you were able to collect were a mix of yours and his items. It's kind of hard to really explain it, so if you want to go ahead and check it out, go ahead into the link down below for archipelago.gg. They will do a better explanation and you could try one out yourself as it is free as long as you own the game. The games that were played alongside my Satisfactory game was Stardew Valley with karinkishimei and Factorio with foeslasher. Now, sadly, I do not have any type of footage from both myself and from others. However, I do have a few screenshots and of course, my save file is still intact so I can still show certain stuff. So that at least we have something to show, I guess. Well then, enough about that. Let's actually figure out how we are going to win in Satisfactory. Now, the game of Satisfactory is kind of simple. There is an end goal and we have actually set that as our end goal. However, I've also taken one step forward and also added an additional goal. So for us to win on Satisfactory, we would first have to get phase 5 on the space elevator. Alongside this goal, we also have to do exploration. At least 75% of exploration according to the settings that they have. This means that we need to get, of course, every phase in the space elevator, if that wasn't clear. 150 Mercer spheres, 75 Zoomer Sloop, 15 hard drives, 700 pale berries, 75 bacon agarics, and 1,500 nuts. The things that are randomized in our game is every single building and every single recipe. So that would mean everything inside the hub, the MAM, the hard drives are fully randomized. There's also an additional section in the awesome shop that gets added that, just a few things you can buy. Of course, alongside that, we also have some key things we have to obtain to win Satisfactory. We have to get every space elevator part, which I'm not going to read out that entire list. I'm just going to put them all on the screen. We're going to need all of these parts. We're also going to need a set numbers of buildings that can create these parts, which would mean assembler, manufacturer, particle accelerator, blender, and quantum encoder. The way we're going to separate all of these chapiters is I'm going to go depending on each phase I go through the game. So for example, in phase 1 of the space elevator, I'm going to explain one part of what happened in the Archipelago randomizer, key points and whatnot that I remember, and of course every factory I've made. And at the end of all this, we're going to go through a final review that's going to explain how it felt like playing Satisfactory and how the other people I played with felt playing with me. Well, without delaying it any further, let's actually start off with the first chapter, or at least first phase. Oh well, actually it's phase 1 and 2, because not much happened on phase 1, neither on phase 2. So, what now? We're starting off a game of Satisfactory Archipelago. What is different from regular Satisfactory gameplay? Well, I can tell you this, not much has changed. You still go through the same farming method, you still go through the same obtaining of certain stuff, except for a few more differences. One of the options I chose for Archipelago was I was randomizing all my recipes as well. So all my starting recipes wouldn't be the same. And in my case, two very important recipes got screwed over. iron ingot, and limestone. Now, okay, I may be exaggerating a bit. The iron ingot one was just I had to combine iron and copper to get it functional, but the limestone was kind of annoying. I had to go grab quartz to make silica, to then combine silica with limestone to make my concrete. That alone is a super annoying thing, but that was least of my concern. That was just some extra automation and whatnot, so generally not much of a big issue. Our combined effort of working together was going smoothly, except I had this one big issue. I had no power to automate. My automation was delayed so far that it was kind of annoying. So whilst we were working through everything, I was mainly focusing on exploration and getting as much free stuff as possible. For every recipe that's unlocked, I get free shit, so I would never have to worry about a lot of stuff. I was still able to progress through the hub, I was able to unlock the MAM, and I was able to find a good chunk of hard drives. But I was still lacking that amount of power that I needed. Well, luckily for me, I had a solution, known as Energy Link. In Archipelago, there's this one little function known as Energy Link. Two games can share energy with each other using Archipelago Joule. I'm not gonna go too deep into the explanation, but foeslasher, who was playing Factorio, actually had Energy Link on as well. So all I had to do was get the battery, which I just recently unlocked, and I had to explain to him that he had to send energy to me so that I could process my entire factory. And that was a very small solution. Not good enough though, because the energy conversion was crap. But hey, it lasted me a good chunk. I'm not gonna complain. Except I did complain a lot. Sorry, Fo, but it just is like that. That didn't last long though, because quite early I not only unlocked the nuclear plant, but also the geothermal generator. Now, as great as nuclear power plant is, it needs a lot of recipes and machines and whatnot to make it work. And I had none of them, to be specific. So that shit was a bust. But the geothermal generator, which I found in a hard drive, was the perfect substitution for power until I reached like phase 5. With my newfound power, I decided to make my first factory. Since I was able to breeze through phase 1, which is just like 50 space smart plating or space elevator, whatever it's called, I was able to rush through that one with a breeze. As for phase 2, which not only needed the smart plating but also automated wiring and versatile framework, I had to work up a little bit more. I knew that versatile frameworks would be used later on, so I decided to only automate that. The rest I was just able to build like a small little machine, put in some free resources and just let that work on its own. Okay, so now I need to make a small little steel factory. That's not a problem. Let's look at the recipe. Oh, I need compacted coal. That means that I'm not making the usual recipe. I'm gonna need both iron, coal, and sulfur. Where the hell am I supposed to find all those free resources? I mean, if only there was a certain location I can make it, which was kind of close to me, which I could then just build up and fix up real quick. I found this one resource place that had both iron, coal, sulfur, and caterium. I mean, they were kind of far away from each other, but it works. It works. Are you gonna complain? No, you're not. You're just gonna sit and watch. And maybe subscribe. Hit the like button too. With the resulting resources, I was able to make this little plant. Now, I know the screenshot looks bad, but you can see the coal is over there, the sulfur is over there, and the iron is over there. And they were all connected into one thing and built with a very terrible bridge. I would love to show you it, but it would spoil two other things that will be included with it. So let's wait for that. With the steel factory and a bit of work on my main base, I was able to automate the first thing, versatile framework thing. I feel like I'm messing up the name every single time I'm saying it, but I'm just gonna go with whatever it is because it's only gonna be in phase 2 and in phase 3. Which, speaking of, we're moving on right over to phase 3 because once again, phase 1 and phase 2 didn't have much. So, phase 3, that one, a bit more stuff happened. You'll see right now. So now, with phase 3 out, we can finally start working on the factory. If we're gonna count all these phases as a meal, I'd say that phase 1 and 2 are appetizers, whilst phase 3 and 4 are the main dish. This is where the automation becomes even more important compared to before, where we could just make some of the resources and automate a small amount of stuff. No, with phase 3 and beyond, we're gonna need a higher quantity of items, which means we're gonna need to work with newer types of items, newer factories, and of course, everybody's favorite thing, fluids. Oh god, fluids. But before we get into the factories, I unlocked the jetpack. With the jetpack, I'm able to now explore a lot more further beyond my usual exploration. The only problem here was I wasn't really smart about it with phase 3 and was a bit more smarter about it later. You see, the jetpack gets better depending on which fuel you give it, and at the time I was using solid biofuel. But if you are starting Archipelago, then heed to this advice. If you unlock rocket or ionized fuel, the packaged version, you can go ahead and buy it from the Awesome Shop. The Awesome Shop is probably the best thing given right now because you can get most of your gears that you normally wouldn't be able to. So as long as you have some type of ticket farming, you can get some of the best fuels super early into the game. So think about that when you're playing Archipelago, assuming you're all going to try out Satisfactory Archipelago up to phase 5. If you go lower than that, I don't think you will have ionized fuel on top. But I could be wrong. The logic works a lot more different than what I think it works. Try it out yourself. Alright. One more final thing before I explain what happened on phase 3. I may or may not have done a small little oopsie against one of my friends. So as you know, I got 2 friends with me playing Satisfactory. One of them playing Factorial, one of them playing Stardew Valley. I never explained the goal of those 2, but I think you can already guess what one of their goals is. For the one playing Stardew Valley, they chose one of the most interesting goals yet, getting the full house achievement, which meant you had to get married and have 2 children. One of the things I found whilst unlocking items for my friend was something known as the baby trap. Essentially, I will be sending over a baby to the Stardew Valley player. Now, using my expanding brain that was increasingly getting knowledge on games, I was thinking, hey, isn't this a good thing? I can give her one part of her goal. But oh no, that was not the case. And instead, it became a higher controversy that I couldn't deal with. I'll let her explain the situation.
One day I opened my Stardew Valley, playing the game, and I got a mail by Pygmalion saying, have this baby trap as a down payment. And I was like, what is a baby trap? Suddenly there's a baby on the floor. I don't even have upgraded house. I just started to play a game. I am not married. I don't even have a partner or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I just started the game and I had a baby. And the next day, the baby is gone. My baby is gone. I don't think it's my baby either. I think it's Pygmalion's baby.
Whoops. Thankfully, this will not have any type of consequences on my end. I mean, it's not like this is gonna haunt me for the rest of my life, or the fact that they're gonna joke with me about that specific thing that happened, and even say that I had a baby with her. That would never happen. Never. And I better not see anything in the comment section. Alright, moving away from that incident, let's actually talk about the important stuff. We need to make a few more factories to make certain important ingredients. However, we couldn't make them close to the main base. We had to make them further away. Similar to how we made the steel factory a bit further away, we had to make these even more further away, because the certain materials they needed were kind of far. Now, I didn't want to just use one conveyor belt from that factory back to the main base, because that would look very ugly, and also nobody would ever let me go for that. Instead, we looked into transportation. I had 2 transportations unlocked that I could use, the drone and the train. Drones would be great, but the problem here was its really good fuel source was not unlocked, aka the battery, and I wasn't really good enough to make fuel yet, especially when I didn't have either turbo fuel or regular fuel unlocked. So I had to use the alternative thing, trains. Trains are really great. All you need to do is power them with energy and then just let them go around the world. So this worked out pretty great compared to drones. Now that we have our method of transportation, it's time to make the factories. I made 3 factories for phase 3, each one having a different phrase in Malay depending on what they're making. We had an oil production factory, a heavy modular frames factory, and a computer/automated wiring factory. Their following names being in order: Miyak, Rangka, Kira. The meanings of these is something you will have to discover yourself or wait until someone in the comment section explains it. Now, each of these factories were doing their own thing, but really, they were all just focusing on producing certain things. Except for the oil production factory, that one I actually was a bit scared. Its main point was making plastic and rubber, which was two very important recipes. But one thing that I cannot understand completely is fluid. Fluids are a very hard thing to work with, and I will explain it further when I'm working with the nuclear factories, which will come around phase 5 or something. But the whole thing with fluid is you're supposed to like supply and give in a certain way, which is not a way I completely understand. So a little cheat for everybody out there that is going to work with fluids: just produce more than what you consume. As long as you can make sure that every single pipe can transfer at least enough for every factory, you should be good to go. I know there are ways to separate it and make it go even faster, but really I couldn't really understand it. After I made those final few factories and the transportation, it was all just very easy game to get to the next phase. Except I wasn't able to because my friends were taking a break from Archipelago and I was the only person left. In this time where I was just, walking around, optimizing and making everything ready for when I unlocked the recipes, I decided to screw around a little bit and try out new stuff. Like, for example, I made a coal generator in the steel factory. Honestly, that coal generator factory was unnecessary and it barely made any difference. It just shows how good the geothermal generators are and how just expanding on those would just give you more value than using the coal generator. So that's a good thing to know. Too bad you can't overclock them. That would have been really good. But after a long overdue exploration and finally getting my recipes, we were finally ready to get to phase 4. And oh boy, was phase 4 interesting. Now, there was nothing specifically difficult about phase 4. We unlock a lot of good stuff, but there's one huge problem specifically when it comes to the space elevator parts. They are really expensive, like unusually expensive, specifically because we need a new material known as aluminum, which basically elevates all of the recipes to a certain point. I guess I didn't have to worry about that for the time being, considering the fact that I had not unlocked any aluminum recipes, or at least I was missing some recipes to make any good ones, so we left that be for the time being. Another problem that raises almost instantaneously was because we were waiting so long for the recipes to come out for phase 3, and the fact that we had to wait an unusually long time sadly made the trains backlog a lot. So there was too much material, they weren't able to transport everything, meaning that some materials were ahead while some were just stuck in their own station. My solution for that was just manually removing some stuff and putting them into the awesome shop, so I guess that's good. On the bright side, we did unlock the Nobelisk detonator and Nobelisk themselves, multiple types of them, so we could start off exploration a bit more, meaning that I had access to more exploration parts and was able to fill up my exploration requirement quite quickly. So there was absolutely no problem whatsoever and it was all a-okay.
Where's my child support, big man?
Fine. Okay, fine. I'll get you your child support. How's about take these Katerium ingots and I'll send them over to you in such a rapid pace that even you don't know what to do with it. What's that? How am I going to send over items from Satisfactory to Stardew Valley considering they're two different games and have absolutely no relation whatsoever? Well, it's easy. We're going to use GiftLink. One of the features in Archipelago is GiftLink. Some games have it, some games don't, but apparently Stardew Valley and Satisfactory have it, so we're using it. Essentially what you can do is you can send items from one game to the same game. Or well, it should just be from one game to another, so you're supposed to like send from Stardew Valley to Stardew Valley. But the developers of this add-on gave it a little bit of an extra kick, so now you're able to not only send from the same game, but also send from other games. The values will be a bit different. If we send Katerium ingots, we will give the Stardew Valley player golden pumpkins. So we can easily just send them Katerium ingots towards them and they can do whatever the hell they want with all those pumpkins they have. So we can finally focus on our issues. And our issues is generally how do we start with aluminum. After a while of exploration and fixing the gift link thingy, I was wondering how am I gonna do the aluminum? I had two options that I had to choose between. The first option I did was I made one of the early recipes I obtained where you skip the alumina solution. The way you make aluminum is you first make it into a liquid. Then you take that liquid and make it into scrap. Then with that scrap, you combine it with silica and make it into our ingots. Using alternate recipes, you can skip some of these things. And what I did was I skipped alumina solution instantaneously and went directly to making instant scrap. This was somewhat of a quick process and it worked quite well, except I didn't know how to transport it without making more train stations. So I tried getting a drone up first. The drone could have worked if I had a good fuel line, and I kind of didn't. I started making the battery station, but then I sort of abandoned it there, so I guess that goes away. The second alternative to aluminum was I went back to the oil station and decided, you know what, there's a bauxite ore not that far away. I can take that plus the petroleum coal and make our alumina solution. Then use that alumina solution to make the scrap into ingot and send it into that station to just build into our main factory. So that was our easy solution. What happened to the other factory? The one that I was supposed to use the drones? It kind of got abandoned. Or was it abandoned? We'll see. Alright, good. So aluminum is down. Now for the next thing. Nitrogen. Nitrogen deposits are a bit off because you need one of these resource sink thingies that you put onto a geyser spot, which would then give you access to a lot of nitrogen. The problem here was finding a good nitrogen deposit is not easy. There was only one nitrogen deposit that was pure in Satisfactory. The rest of them are either normal or impure. So, only one thing to do. Let's make a train station that goes all the way to there and only extracts nitrogen. I was smart enough to make two stations inside of the main factory where it was both resources and fluids. And since nitrogen is a fluid, it could take specifically that fluid spot, so that's no problem with me. Alongside the nitrogen, I also made one of those crystal accelerator thingies. I let it be produced over there. I didn't know if I needed it or not, but I had it over there for safekeeping. Who knows, could be useful. After gathering the nitrogen and having the aluminum close to us, there was not much that happened after that. The only other thing I noted down on a note in my notepad was the fact that nuclear pasta was one of the most annoying things to create. It was the one that took the longest to make, and it was the one that consumed the most amount of energy. But apart from that, most of the other materials I made was super easy to make. It was mostly just AFKing whilst the rest were catching up. So really, not much of a big issue up until phase 5. Okay, I just have to say this. Why 1,000 nuclear pasta? That just feels very annoying. But alright, let's just get into phase 5. Phase 5 felt very anticlimactic, if I'm gonna say this in the most nicest way possible. There wasn't really much to add on to this except for like 3 new things plus the nuclear pasta. If I'm gonna mention phase 5 in a nutshell, I would just say you're introduced to a few new stuff, except not really, because all the resource thing you need for it is just SAM. For clarity, you never need SAM unless you want to get something like a dimensional depot, which in our case, we get the dimensional depot super early unless somebody restricts that from you. Also the randomizer, so once again, you won't be getting the dimensional depot. Instead, you'll have a lot of random items and you could choose whether you want to grab them or not. I chose to grab them, so I have some use for them. But other than that, it's mostly just very easy to deal with. I was able to just get a regular SAM node from the Miyak factory, so that was a lot more easier. Then I was able to grab another SAM node a bit more further away from the main base. Not even that far away, it was like a few meters away from the steel factory. So once again, a lot of this needed SAM, but at the same time, it was never that expensive. However, there was one problem that came along: energy. Now, by phase 5, you should already have a pretty good energy production. You should have nuclear factories already unlocked, and by then you're also supposed to have a lot of energy, both from geothermal generators, fuel generators, coal generators, and of course the nuclear one itself. I wasn't able to get the fuel generator because it took me a very long time to unlock it. Up until now, of course. So not really a problem right now. I was able to make a quick factory right there using a bit of rocket fuel to make a pretty nice fuel generator. But as for the nuclear power plant, that one took a bit more longer. I had the recipes, I had everything, but to make the entire factory and make it functional took me a very long time. Luckily, I found this location to make everything, and making the fuel rods wasn't really an issue. I was able to gather a lot of the resources around the place I made the nuclear factory, and of course, I was able to grab crystal accelerators from Menew, which made it a lot more easier to make the rods itself. It was a bit of a tangle to get it fixed up, but it looks a lot more better than what the main base does, which by the way, you'll see that soon enough. Final stretch for the nuclear power plants to fully work was just getting the cooling to work, and that one I had a bit of a hassle until I went for a little water tower method to make it all work. So it's all good now, nothing to really worry about. And that's all I really have to show. Here are clips of the final base as I monologue the final bit of this episode, or Archipelago thing that I made. Okay, low-key, this genuinely was really fun to play through, and if I ever could, I would play it again, presumably with more people that has like gift link or NG link. I asked the others to give me a quick report, and both of them gave substantially great reports. Karin called me a sugar daddy, and foeslasher said he would try out the Satisfactory Archipelago the next time he gets a chance. Terribly sorry that this video took this long. This is the first time trying to make a video like this, and I did say I wanted to improve myself, so this is the improvement. This did kind of come out of the spur, like just randomly I said, you know what, let's make this. I have a few screenshots, I still have the game running, and that's good enough to make this video, I guess. The next one, if I ever make an Archipelago explanation or a definitive edition of how I felt about it, I will actually have footage and a bit more of a better explanation of the whole story instead of a random jumble and then throwing a few bits here and there, you know, like I usually do. If you like the content you see, give it a like, hit the subscribe button, do the usual thing people do when they actually like a content creator. I make at least a video once a month, assuming nothing happens, and if it's a good day, I make 2 or 3 every month, which usually doesn't happen that easily. Alright, that's all I have to report. Go ahead and watch the final bit of the base, assuming there's anything left. Goodbye.